Ivan Toney.
Ivan Toney.
Ivan Toney again!
Ivan Toney is widely regarded as one of the Premier League's most dangerous strikers. A player who, when they find themselves in the 18-yard box, turns to a defender's worst nightmare. A player who walks and talks with the swag of a Premier League great, and since making his Premier League debut has established himself as one of England's most devastating strikers and most prolific strikers around. I mean, 45 goal contributions in 73 Premier League matches has labelled him as the answer to the frontline problems of some of the biggest teams in all England, including Arsenal and Chelsea. Yet, with all this praise and high regard, has only managed a grand total of 1 England cap. And not to mention the giant elephant in the room that Ivan Toney has just recently returned from an 8-month suspension for heavy betting offences in football. But before we get into all of that, we gotta take this story all the way back to the Stone Ages of 2012. This was the year of the London 2012 Olympics. Chelsea had miraculously won the Champions League against Bayern Munich. The Rock defeated John Cena in the main event of WrestleMania, and Ivan Toney was making his debut for League 2 side Northampton Town in the FA Cup. Unfortunately, it wasn't a successful match as Northampton Town actually lost to Bradford on penalties. But hey, first team debut at the age of 16 in a high stakes match in the FA Cup, that is a very big deal. And the fact that he made his debut at that young age shows that the coaches had big hopes for him. Ivan Toney racked up 59 appearances, scoring 13 goals. Just to clarify as well, Ivan Toney during these times was 17 to 18 years of age, being entrusted to play as the first team striker in a league where players are pretty much playing for their mortgages and they're going all out, and they're not going to take it easy on a kid. They're going to go hard on him, elbowing, maybe some two-footing here and there, definitely some very firm tackles. It's a really steep learning ground and there's no room for error, and Ivan Toney rose to the occasion. So much so that he was now garnering attention from some of the biggest teams in the following summer. He signed for Newcastle United in the Premier League for a reported £300,000 on a long-term deal. Once he was signed to the team, he was sent straight to the under-21s for further development. Of course, this was to be expected because Newcastle had players playing up front for them such as Papi Cisse, Ayoze Perez, and of course Alexander Mitrovic. So a lengthy spell in under-21s was to be expected for Ivan Toney, and to be fair, he was living in the house with stars such as Kevin Mbabu and Rolando Aarons, so it seemed like he was in a good space just to get his head down and redevelop into his game. He did get a chance at his debut though 3 weeks after his signing, ironically against his former team Northampton Town in the League Cup for Newcastle in a 4-1 win. So Toney had his debut match, back to the under-21s, but there was a turn of fortunes. Ivan Toney made such a big impression for under-21s in September that he ended up winning the Barclays Under-21 Player of the Month for September and was rightly rewarded with a call up to the first team by then manager Steve McLaren. He made his Premier League debut against Chelsea in a 2-2 draw at St James's Park, and in the space of 3 years from his original debut with Northampton Town FA Cup, had now held claim to playing in a Premier League match. Now here's the issue. Ivan Toney was now too good for the under-21s, but at the same time was not seen as good enough for the first team of Newcastle. So he was sent out on loan. He went on a 1-month loan to League One side Barnsley and chipped in with 2 goals and 1 assist in 8 matches. And on his return to Newcastle after that month finished, he was named on the bench for Premier League matches against Everton and Arsenal before stepping out on the pitch in a thrilling 3-3 draw against Manchester United. But another spoiler, I should say this right now, this was the last time that Ivan Toney would ever put on the Newcastle United shirt. See, the issue was that he had suffered an ankle injury that put him out of action for 2 months. And when he had recovered, he was sent out on loan again to Barnsley, this time for the end of their season run, which concluded in success as he helped Barnsley win the Football League trophy and also helped them gain promotion from League One to the Championship. So a pretty successful loan. Only issue was that Toney only scored 0 goals in his second stint on loan at Barnsley. So the chances of a breakthrough at Newcastle at this time were slim to none. Newcastle had just been relegated from the Premier League and were seeking immediate promotion. So an opportunity for a young and up-and-coming striker to just make an impact in this team wasn't seen as a solution they were keen on taking. Therefore, another loan was set for Toney, this time to two teams, Shrewsbury Town and Scunthorpe United. And he made a great account for himself during the season, chipping in with 22 goal contributions in 43 matches. So in the next season now, Newcastle are back in the Premier League, and Rafa Benitez had zero plans to include Ivan Toney in his Premier League squad. He's been on loan, in fact, with two League One sides in one season. Okay, fair enough. You think he should go out on loan to a championship level team because now he can raise his level from League One to the championship and hopefully to the Premier League. Well, this was not the case because he was sent out on loan again to another League One side in Wigan and then sent on another loan to another League One side in Scunthorpe United. Again, this time he finished the season with 18 goal contributions in 46 matches. Now you probably already picked this up. A clear pattern has been forming here. Toney was clearly seen as not good enough for the Newcastle first team. Even though he gained a respected reputation in League One football, the hierarchy at Newcastle were under no pressure to move pillars and posts to get him into the first team as soon as possible. So in came Peterborough United, who signed him for £650,000 in August 2018 with the objective to get promotion from League One to the Championship. And I can tell you this right now, this is the move that put Ivan Toney on the map. In his first season for Peterborough, Ivan Toney chipped in with 23 goals and 8 assists, which was the highest goal and assist tally of his whole career up to this point, which included a hat-trick against Bradford City in the FA Cup. Remember? The team he made his debut against at 16. He even scored in this same match a halfway line free kick, which would have made David Beckham proud. Unfortunately, irregardless of these exploits, Peterborough missed out on the playoffs by 1 point, finishing in 7th. On the bright side, this was their highest league finish in 5 years. So a chance to kick on was rightly anticipated for Toney and co. And in the next season, this proved to be the case. Ivan Toney was even more fruitful in front of the goal. He fired 26 goals and got 7 assists in 39 matches, which was actually 16 less matches than he had played in the previous season. So he was even more deadly in front of goal. Now you're probably asking, why did he play less games? Was he injured? Did he have any suspensions? This was during the 2019-2020 season in which the pandemic struck. Now this had caused a halt to all the football around the world and especially for League One football. So much to the point that it was voted by League One and League Two sides to cancel the rest of the league and not resume the 2019-2020 season. And the most unfortunate thing about all of this was that Peterborough once again finished 7th in the league. Again, only being 1 point from 6th place. And actually, when you put it into context, this would have been a 6th season in the row in the cards for Ivan Toney in League One when you consider the loans that he had in the previous seasons while Newcastle. And Ivan Toney at this point was now firing on all cylinders at this level, so there was no need for him to stay. He was essentially ready for a step up. This step up was seen in offers from some of the biggest teams in the country and even out of the country. At this time, there was interest from recently relegated Watford, who had just been relegated from the Premier League into the Championship. There was interest from old firm giants in Celtic and Rangers, and just to put it out there as well, there was interest from Tottenham Hotspurs in the Premier League. Ivan Toney did not want to sit on the bench, and he did not see this as a good option. So he chose the biggest choice of his whole career. He joined Brentford for a fee of up to £10 million from Peterborough. Now I have to commend both Brentford and Peterborough for this deal. First off, signing a League One player for up to £10 million, that's a very big deal. And it's not like Ivan Toney was a 16-year-old wonder kid who was sought after by some of the biggest teams in the Premier League. No, he was sought after by teams, but at this point, Ivan Toney was 24 years of age. The fact that Peterborough had been able to build up a player who had been cast away by Newcastle essentially, to the point where Brentford saw his talent and were willing to spend the big funds of up to £10 million for his services, I gotta give them both respect. Great deal all around. Yes, very risky, but great deal all around, and we've seen why. The move was an instant success. Ivan Toney had finished the season off with 33 goals and 10 assists in 52 appearances, which was an even better tally from the season he had before at Peterborough at a lower level. And because of his goal scoring exploits, Ivan Toney had fired Brentford into the playoff final with a chance at Premier League football on the horizon. And wouldn't you know it, just as he had done 5 years earlier for Barnsley to help them get up, to the Championship, he had helped Brentford get to the Premier League, scoring in the famous 2-0 win at Wembley against Swansea City. Brentford were now in the Premier League, which was the first time they had touched the top division in 74 years. And now Ivan Toney was in the Premier League. And of course there would be doubters to say, oh, well, he's not ready for the Premier League. He won't handle the pressure. It's not that easy Championship. This is the Premier League. Well, he was ready to make everyone eat their words. Because now you need to understand the situation that Ivan Toney was in. He had gone from being an outcast at Newcastle, as I stated before, essentially being branded as unwanted goods by a Premier League side. He was now back at a stage where he felt he should have been way earlier in his career, and the opportunity was now to make a name for himself, and he took the opportunity with both hands. In Brentford's first season in the Prem, he helped them stay up and defy expectation, helping Brentford finish 13th in the Premier League, firing 14 goals in all contributions, with 12 of them being in the Premier League. And I know what some guys are going to say, oh, he scored penalties because he's a penalty merchant. He did chip in with 5 penalties for Brentford. I should put that into context, yes. But it's not just the goals he was scoring that season. It was the way he was scoring. It was the way he was dominating the defenders. It was the way he was facilitating play in the attacking third. It was the way he was contributing to the team. He was the main focal point for Brentford. He was not a defender's dream. Now, building onto the momentum of the previous season into the 2022-2023 season, Ivan Toney was firing again on all cylinders, this time on an even higher degree. His highest standard performances were catching the eyes of fans, players, pundits and coaches alike. Some of his performances against the top 6 sides of the Premier League had caught the eyes of teams seeking a marquee striker for their front line. He had continued to be a maverick for Brentford in the Premier League, and he actually ended up becoming the 3rd highest scorer that season in the Premier League, finishing with 20 goals in the Premier League, just behind Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. Now that's a really high esteem. Being in the same conversation as both Harry Kane and Erling Haaland, yes, he was 3rd place. Yes, he had 10 less goals than Harry Kane. Yes, he had 16 less goals than Erling Haaland. But 20 goals in the Premier League for a team like Brentford, no disrespect, that's a massive feat. And Brentford that season, they finished 9th in the Premier League. And his performances had actually led to him now earning a call-up to the England national team and actually getting onto the pitch, not just sitting on the bench. He was able to make his debut in a Euro qualifier match against Ukraine at Wembley, which was a massive moment. Yes, he was only on the pitch for 9 minutes, but it was a massive moment nonetheless. The guy who started out his career at Northampton at the age of 16 and was now playing at Wembley for England. He made it. He made it. 20 goal season striker in the Premier League. He made it. The only issue was that this tale was going to take a cautionary swing. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, Ivan Toney was banned from football for 8 months in relation to betting offences, very severe betting offences. It was revealed by the FA that Ivan Toney had been charged with up to 262 breaches of its gambling laws. Initially it was 232 and they just brought it up by 30 because they found other things he had done. And just to put into context, this took place from 2017 to 2021. This whole ordeal was extremely messy because the FA had tried to essentially destroy Ivan Toney by stating that he had been lying with the evidence he was providing, that he was trying to destroy his own evidence. There had been a worry that Ivan Toney was a match fixer, which is one of the worst status titles you could be given in football. Being a match fixer, that destroys your credibility. If you're playing in a match and you're trying to cause your team to lose so that you win a bet, no, you will not be respected in the game. You will be shunned and essentially deleted from the game. But this wasn't the case. He did in fact bet on his team 29 times in matches and did bet 13 times for his team to lose. However, in the times he had bet them to lose, he wasn't actually playing, so it must just been a case for him being salty, or there must have been some issue for him to have betted in that situation. Nonetheless, at the end of it, Ivan Toney was charged with 8 months away from football, meaning that he was not allowed to play a match for Brentford for 8 months, and with this was formally diagnosed with a gambling addiction. Well, this kind of sucks, but considering I'm making this video, I could safely say that Ivan Toney's found his level again. And since making his return, Ivan Toney has scored 4 Premier League goals in 8 matches. And I should say this right now, he scored his opening 4 goals in his first 5 games back for Brentford. On his first game back, he scored against Nottingham Forest while captaining the side. It was controversial how he scored, but he scored nonetheless. His next game against Tottenham, he scored. 2 games after this, he played against Wolves and he scored. Next game against Liverpool, he scored. So upon his return, he's just done his job. He's scoring goals as he was the previous season. At the time of this recording, he's just played in the match against Chelsea in which Brentford drew 2-2 against Chelsea at home. And yes, he's currently on a scoreless streak in the past 3 matches, but this is to be forgiven. He scored 4 goals in his opening 5 Premier League matches. And to put this into context as well, when you look at other players in the league, Gabriel Jesus, who plays for Arsenal, was a marquee signing for Arsenal to be their main striker, has only 4 Premier League goals in 18 matches, while Ivan Toney has 4 goals in 8 matches. And I won't stop there. Bruno Fernandes, we've seen time and time again score goals for Manchester United. At one point was a 20-goal season player for Manchester United. This season has only scored 3 Premier League goals in 26 matches in the league. And I know some of the Man United fans are going to say, oh, his role is different, it's not the same. I don't care what you say. He has played 26 matches. He knows where the goal is. He loves to take a shot at the goal. He knows what he's doing. He's only scored 3 Premier League goals in 26 Premier League matches, while Ivan Toney was banned for 8 months, has come back and has scored 4 goals in his opening 5 Premier League matches. Okay, you have to put some serious respect in Ivan Toney's name. And when I look at Ivan Toney, honestly, I see R9 Ronaldo. I'm joking. I don't see that. I'm joking. Relax yourself. No, seriously, when I see Ivan Toney, I think of Ian Wright. I know it's going to sound mad because Ian Wright is such a legendary figure in the game, such a legendary striker for what he's done, but it's not really just about the goals that Ivan Toney scored, which has made me attribute his game to him. It's mostly in terms of the come-up story. I didn't mention this before, but I'll mention it now. Ivan Toney, when he was essentially playing for Northampton, he didn't have it easy. He earned his scholarship at Northampton at the age of 15, and before that he had been at Leicester. It didn't work out so well for him in his career, and he ended up at Northampton and had to work his way into the first team, becoming their youngest ever first team player, as I mentioned, at 16 years of age. He signs for Newcastle. You think things are going to be great for him. He's going to burst onto the scene and be the main striker. It didn't work out like that. He ended up being carted off and had to work his way again back from the bottom all the way up, and then eclipse all the potential that was thought of his career. Because I'll be honest, Newcastle fans did not think that this would have happened for Ivan Toney. They didn't see him as a guy like that because he wasn't presented as a guy who could take a team to the heights that he's taken Brentford, for instance, and be a potential starter for England, or even just get onto the team for England. That wasn't seen by Newcastle at all. I know we could blame Newcastle heavily for this. I'm not going to, because you see players, for instance, such as Joselu, who all of a sudden is playing for Real Madrid, but when he was in Newcastle, he wasn't really performing like a Real Madrid type player, and he wasn't really sought after by teams around the world as the next big thing. So hindsight is amazing, but there was no indication that Ivan Toney was going to be a star for Newcastle. In this case, for Ivan Toney, he's proven himself as a main player, a main striker. If he was playing for Newcastle right now, he'd be a massive help to them, of course, but he's not. And to reel it back onto how I feel that he is related in some regard to the game style of Ian Wright, it's mainly the goals. It's the positioning on the pitch. It's the attack position. It's the understanding of where to be on the pitch. It's to understand how to get the ball in the back of the net. Ian Wright loved doing that in his career for Arsenal. Just finding himself in the right position and just firing the ball into the back of the net. I know you could say, oh, well, Alan Shearer, you could compare him to Alan Shearer, compare him to Andy Cole. I understand. Compare him to Ruud van Nistelrooy, compare him to Dimitar Berbatov, to Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen. I get it. I see him in the same light of an Ian Wright in that regard, mostly just due to how aggressive he is into getting the ball in the back of the net and just taking his opportunity. Because in today's game, game, if I'm being honest, I don't really see as many ruthless strikers out there. The 20-goal season Premier League striker is extremely special in the transfer market. And if Ivan Toney continues to do the work that he has done for Brentford, and he continues to propel his game even higher and show himself as an even more consistent and dangerous striker, there's no limit to where he's going to end up. And before you know it, England might try to find a way for him and Harry Kane to play in the same team, because that type of talent you can't just pass up on. You've got to take advantage of it, and Ivan Toney's done all the work to get to the position. It's just up to the right club to find a way to acquire his services.